Okay. So we are recording. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today. My name is Liz Vagani, and I am a Librarian 3 branch manager at the San Diego County Library. And we're here today to talk about our journey at SDCL to create some public library services for incarcerated and reentering populations. And this is the SJSU and Urban Libraries Council here on our slide. All right, so good afternoon and thank you for joining me today. Of course, my name is Liz Vagani and I'm a Librarian 3 branch manager for the San Diego County Library System. The branch that I manage is,
Liz,
yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I can see your notes. Did you want
You can
that?
see my notes here?
Yes.
That's all right. Let's see if I can make it so that you can't see my notes, guys. Otherwise, you're just gonna, we'll do it without the notes. So that's no fun. Hold on one second here.
Great. Notes have disappeared.
Lovely. Okay, here we go again. Let me scooch back to my introductory slide here. All right. So we're going to spend the next 15 to 20 minutes doing a whirlwind tour through San Diego County Library's efforts to partner with our county jail system. Our focus in these efforts has really been to provide services which center the needs of individuals who are incarcerated or who are re-entering the community after the end of their jail term. So my intention is for everyone here to leave this presentation with some practical, workable steps to begin similar efforts in your own library systems. I am going to save some time at the end to answer questions, but since I'm presenting without a co-presenter, the easiest way for me to answer the questions is if you guys send them directly to me in the chat feature rather than to all the attendees. And then at the end, I'll be able to scroll through and see what you've sent. So of course, the first thing that we should talk about for a moment is why we do this work. So like every public library, SDCL really provides vital public services. These include internet access, literacy support, technology training, the opportunity to earn a high school diploma online. We have programs to engage in creative expression and countless opportunities for lifelong learning. So reaching out and welcoming justice-involved individuals into our spaces really makes them more likely to take advantage of all of these great tools that we offer. And it can help remove any stigma or intimidation that they may feel visiting the library once they are out of their jail or carceral facility. So one of the most important things to remember when you're doing this work is that justice-involved individuals are members of the communities that we serve. So just as the library would offer an outreach story time or a school visit, libraries should also be offering services to individuals who are incarcerated or reentering. And of course, our hope is really to honor the dignity of the justice involved and do our part to reduce recidivism to strengthen our communities. So now we're just going to take a moment to talk about how we got started with this work at the San Diego County Library. While sporadic efforts had been made piecemeal in the past to engage with the justice involved, other than our written reference service, which I'll talk about a little bit later, none of those had really stuck. So to start with, we researched what other libraries were doing and discovered that there were a lot of great programs across the country, but very few local efforts that were in place to work with these communities. Next, we really had to decide where we wanted to focus our efforts. In the county of San Diego, geographically, there are federal, state, and county detention facilities. Each one of them have different points of contact. Each one of them have different levels of engagement that they're able to have with the outside community. So as a county library, the county jail was a natural partner. Not only do we share a common governing infrastructure, the shorter terms that are usually served in county jails means that individuals are re-entering our communities rapidly, and we wanted them to have an established relationship with the library when that happened. So we decided who we wanted to work with, and then we decided kind of to start small. So reaching out to the Women's Incarceration Facility, which is an incarceration and reentry facility. Of the 6 county jails, only one of them houses women. So library staff met with a reentry services specialist and counseling department staff for a listening session because we wanted to know more about the environment that we were hoping to work within. So we asked them about the daily information and reading needs of the inmates. We asked about the biggest challenges that these women are facing upon reentry into their communities. We wanted to know what the criteria were for book donations. We wanted to know what level of technology access the women have while they are incarcerated, because some of our programs are technology heavy, and if they had access to the internet or regular technology access, that would open a few more doors. We wanted to know whether there was a need for parenting or early literacy related outreach for this population, and really anything else that the jail and counseling staff wanted to share with us, we wanted to know about so that we could have the best picture possible of how we could maybe help and partner. So our listening session was incredibly helpful, and it really provided some context for the challenges that we might encounter while executing future projects. It also provided us with some really clear ideas of what issues could be addressed immediately and which issues could potentially be focused on in the future. So we took this information and began to consider where needs existed that could be met by library services. So first of all, as each new SDCL system-wide program emerges, we try to take a moment to consider whether it might be beneficial to incarcerated or reentering individuals, or both. And if the answer to that question is yes, then we try to think about how we could really adapt that program that's coming out to work within the structure and capacity of the jail system. Since our initial listening session, we've scaled beyond the first partnership with the women's facility, and now we do work with all 6 county incarceration facilities on various different projects. So over the next couple of slides, I'm going to review a few of our successful projects that we've had so that they might hopefully spark some ideas which you guys might be able to utilize in your own library settings. So the only firmly established program which existed when we began these efforts was the practice of providing written reference question response for incarcerated persons. Old school, comes in the US snail mail, we write a letter back. One of our library branches receives between 5 and 10 letters a month in the mail requesting information. Our reference librarian staff respond to these letters in writing and mail the letters back to the incarceration facilities. This provides incarcerated individuals with access to information which might be readily available on the internet, but is hard for them to access in a jail or prison setting because of the restrictions that they have with accessing technology. The inquiries that we receive range from questions about how to develop an app to requesting recent news articles about popular entertainers. In addition to fulfilling the traditional reference duty of responding to customer inquiries, which of course all of our libraries do every day, this service also allows just as involved individuals to know that the library welcomes and values them as customers, even when they're not right in front of us at the reference desk. Another simple project that's really great is the donation of good condition weeded paperbacks to enhance the offerings in the on-site jail libraries, and actually a couple of prison libraries as well. We also work with the state prisons nearby to do this. Some of these libraries have restrictions on either content or format, so it is important before trying to do this to start by learning what their regulations may be, and then considering whether these restrictions are something that your organization can support. So some facilities have restrictions, for example, on the format of materials, such as they don't want hardcover books or something with staples in it, because that might be a security issue within their facility. Others may actually have content-related restrictions, such as no books which glorify violence. So we have been fortunate that the content restrictions for the facilities that we work with have really been minimal, and the format restrictions have been quite manageable. So many of the county libraries' discards are sent to the jail or prison libraries. Sometimes if we get advanced reader copies that seem like they'd fit the bill, we'll send those along as well. So the next one that I have here is participating in One Book, One San Diego. The women's facility was actually interested in participating in One Book, One San Diego, which is our big annual community-wide read. In order to allow the women to engage in the same intellectual experiences as the wider community at the same time, we had to revise the traditional book club model to suit our needs, because at the time COVID had prevented any sort of larger gathering in the jail facility. So to accommodate this, we donated 30 copies of the selected title, which last year was Being Human by Judy Human, to the women's jail. And each copy contained a bookmark that had pre-reading introspection questions on one side and after reading introspection questions on the other. The books were passed around when they were finished, and the women were able to engage in casual, unstructured conversations in smaller settings in their residential groupings. This was actually a really popular program, and several of the women wrote reviews about their experience for our final system-wide grant report out. The last one on this slide is actually another one geared towards prisons, and this is very low cost and very easy. Our library has several of our programs listed in the state's arcade database. So the arcade database is basically a statewide search engine of supportive services for people who are re-entering after the end of their prison sentence. San Diego County Library has Library High School, which is an online program where library customers can earn a free high school diploma if they're over the age of 19, and that has a listing. We have other programs that we're working on listing as well. This makes these events and programs really easily discoverable by re-entering individuals. And once again, we're sending the clear message that the library welcomes and values justice-involved individuals into our space. Okay, so this is just an overview of another project that we did, which was a little bit outside of the box, where we purchased children's books for the jail libraries. So during our listening sessions, we did have re-entry staff ask us if we could possibly get children's books into the jail libraries. The incarcerated women would often ask for children's books to read during video or in-person visits with their children. So of course, following those format regulations that we already knew, paperback, and that was really the only thing that we had to worry about with the children's books. So we started by working with our Friends of the Library group to get a grant to purchase these books. They gave us $2,000 and we bought 300 paperback children's books. These books were added to the jail libraries and also to reentry counselor offices. And the bulk of these went to the women's facility because that's really where the interest had been the greatest. But all of the facilities did receive some books, so everybody had access to those. We really try to purchase a mixture of titles for this. Some of the titles were very issue specific, dealing with incarcerated parents, or some of them just were dealing with typical childhood challenges. Somebody's afraid of the dark, or what to do when you get angry. And honestly, some of them were just lighthearted fun, Elephant and Piggy, that sort of a thing. We did make sure that the authors and content of the books reflected the diverse nature of our community residents. And these books remain very popular in the jail libraries today and are still heavily used over a year after they were initially installed. So now we're going to move on to one of my favorite programs. This one is one of my brainchildren, so I really love it. And we're going to talk about re-entry library cards. So this is actually a really interesting program. It's low cost, it's easy to maintain, and re-entry library cards allow individuals who are incarcerated to request a library card while they are still in jail, and then they have it in hand as they leave the facility. I'm going to walk you guys through the details of this program so that you have a little bit more clarity on how that might work. So to start with, and you can see it here, there's this poster, what can you do with a library card? This poster is hung in the jail's housing units so that individuals can take a look at this and see what library services are. So potential library customers then can write to their counseling office and request just a library card application, which is just a regular paper library card application. While they're filling that out, if they don't have a residential address, they can use general delivery for the community that they live in because we permit that for our library cards. And they don't need to have ID because they're already incarcerated by the county under the name, and the counseling office is verifying that that is indeed that person's name. So that kind of helps us work around some of those hiccups that people might encounter when they're out of jail. So once that application is complete, the counseling office emails those applications to the library. This is very simple. We get the email, we issue a library card, and we put it in an envelope with some information on library locations and services so they know where to go with that card. And we just deliver the card packet back to the counselors at the jail. Because we're county in their county, we can send it through our county shipment, but I've also more than once just driven them over to the lobby of whichever facility needs them if they need them in a hurry. So this little envelope that has all this information in it, I give it over to the counselors. The counselors just take it down to the jail's storage area and staple it right to the bag of the belongings that that person is going to get when they leave jail. Because when you go into jail, all of your belongings are collected. They put it in a bag. They just staple this card to the outside of the bag. And when the customer is released, they have that library card in hand along with information on how to use it. So we began this with a pilot program at the women's incarceration facility, but we have expanded to all of our county incarceration facilities. The demand for this varies, but it averages out to anywhere between 1 and 4 library cards per week that we are issuing and delivering to people who are reentering. Sometimes it'll be a little bit longer between. We'll have kind of a quiet time where we won't have a lot of requests, and sometimes I'll get a bunch of them all at once. So to protect the privacy of library customers, we do not track any data or outputs for these accounts. I know how many cards we've issued, but what we're not doing is saying, oh, this person came in on this date, et cetera, because we really don't want to create a stigma attached to a person who was justice involved. So moving out from the what can you do with a library card and our reentry library cards, we have another program, which is our Reentry Tech Connect kits. So this is another flyer that's hung in the jail's housing units. And this is a brand new program, which I have literally launched this week. But it really does expand on our reentry library card service. So the Tech Connect program is actually fairly unique. And this is the only thing that I'm presenting to you guys that I don't think will be as easily replicable at other libraries, because we do have some resources to support this. However, it was an exercise in creative problem solving to execute, so it's worth sharing here. So to create the Tech Connect program, SDCL applied for a grant from the FCC's Emergency Connectivity Fund. This grant enabled us to purchase and check out 7,000 bundled kits of 1 Chromebook and 1 MiFi, including 1 year of free internet service. So these kits are called Tech Connect kits, and they're available to any SDCL customer who would benefit from internet or computer access. So we actually took that program a step further and adapted it so that re-entering individuals who request a kit will have one available to them upon release. So when they're requesting their reentry library card, they can also request a kit. The kit is designated for their use. We set it aside, we label it for them, and we hold it for 6 months. Upon release, the individual can visit the library with the library card that they've received and check out their Tech Connect kit. We're really just getting started, but both jail staff and library staff are really excited about the level of access that this can provide to the vulnerable reentry population. So now we're going to talk quickly about future projects that we're working on, because while we're very proud of the programs we've already executed and those which remain ongoing, we do always have an eye toward the future and growing our incarcerated reentry services programs. So these are in the very, very early stages, and some of them are really just a gleam in a librarian's eye. But we're working on early literacy classes for incarcerated caregivers. We've been told that many of the women are interested in learning more about parenting and raising children. So we're adapting our early learning curriculum to present 2-hour workshops, either in person or virtually, to incarcerated caregivers. We're also working on doing some literacy-based virtual and in-person programming, maybe book clubs or writing groups. COVID really hampered our in-person efforts since the jail population is particularly vulnerable in the case of an outbreak. So we're excited for restrictions to eventually loosen up so that we can hopefully do more in-person things soon. And of course, we're always keeping an eye out for projects and services which could serve individuals who are incarcerated or re-entering, and we're checking in regularly with jail staff to see if new needs have arisen. So now I have for you guys some tips to get started on programs like this. The first thing that I really recommend is to be prepared. So start by doing research. What's available nearby? What are best practices nationwide? Read about the justice involved, attend lectures or listening sessions, speak with individuals who have been involved with or impacted by the justice system, and really educate yourself about the experiences of these individuals. Also, be communicative. Be prepared with talking points to emphasize the value of these services. Stakeholders, community members, and staff will have questions, and be ready with answers to emphasize the importance of serving all members of our community, including the justice involved. I always recommend that you be creative with problem solving. When you're working with incarceration facilities, you really can find yourself far outside of the traditional library realm, so traditional library practices aren't always the right fit. In the same way that you might adapt practices for outreach events or other special partnerships, really be open to adapting practices when you're working with jails or the justice involved. And finally, be persistent in finding the right contact. Sometimes you don't hear back from an inquiry you send to try and partner, and that's okay. Just try to find someone else who might be willing to work with you. One no or ignored email does not necessarily mean that the jail is not interested in working with you. And of course, be open-minded. Our experience at SDCL has shown us that we need to be open-minded and put the needs of the individuals that we're serving first, and really not assume that we know the best way to address any given situation. So I wanted to thank you all for taking the time to attend our presentation today. I hope everyone leaves with at least some ideas on how to start engaging with your local jails. I did save a few minutes for questions now, but also do please feel free to contact me at any time with future questions. My contact information is right here on this slide. It's also on the Library 2.0 conference website. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, and then you guys will see me on the video here in a second, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of these questions that we have here. Okay, hello everybody. Let me take a look here at the questions.
And there
All right. I see. I'm sorry, what was that?
There were just a few questions that came through in the chat for everyone.
Yes, I see them. I'm just going to scroll through and grab some. I see one here that said they missed how many books we had bought for one book, One San Diego. We purchased 30. And that was because we had asked the reentry counselors how many books they thought we should purchase, and that was how many we went with. The question, do they have to have a permanent address when they leave jail to get or keep the library card? No. San Diego is an area that has a large population of individuals who experience unhoused status. And so we do have methodologies already in place for allowing everybody to get a library card, and we just follow those same things for individuals who are re-entering. Nobody has to have a permanent address. Let's see, has your library system considered partnering with mental health inpatient centers to implement a similar / the same program? It's not something that we have really started considering yet, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't in the future, and especially because we really like the results that we're seeing here. And I do see again another question about, does the library card application need a confirmed address? The answer again is no. We have different levels of library cards. Somebody can get a full access card with all of the great things that we have to offer. If they have proof of address, if they have photo ID but no proof of address, we have a card where people can check out up to 5 items. And those are the cards that I use for individuals when I'm issuing the re-entry cards. What advice would you give to reach out to a treatment center? It is like rehab, but is locked up. I would probably follow the same steps because that seems to me like it would be similar. But again, I think that it needs to start with finding the right contact and then listening to what the needs of the people are who are in that facility, and then thinking about what the library could offer that would help meet those needs. Do you help them register to vote while incarcerated? No, but maybe we should. We're very big into voting and partner close with our registrar of voters. So that's a really great suggestion. Do we have any other questions today? All right. So I do know that there are other sessions and you guys might need to hop off and leave. And it looks like we finished in the perfect amount of time for you guys to do that. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. I would really like as many people as possible to begin working in this arena. Thank you so much.